In Twilight Princess, Link is taught sword techniques by the Hero's Shade, an armoured, skeletal warrior. The Hero's Shade is one of the Zelda series' most enigmatic characters, an undead swordsman with a single, piercing red eye, clad in a suit of ancient golden armour. The game reveals very little about his backstory, but it does hint at his true identity. It seems that he is none other than the Hero of Time, the incarnation of Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. How is this possible? How did this legendary hero, the Link who travelled the roads of time itself to save his kingdom, become this? Subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content, and let's examine the story of the Hero's Shade. After Link has made his way through the dusky Faron Woods, but before he enters its heart, the Forest Temple, he meets a shimmering, golden wolf. When approached, the wolf lunges at the hero. Gilded jaws snap shut on Link's head, and the forest around them fades into mist. When the hero wakes, he finds himself in an eerie, dreamlike echo of Hyrule, and the golden wolf reveals its true form, a towering phantom knight. The skeletal swordsman tells Link that a sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage. You may be destined to become the hero of legend, but your current power would disgrace the proud green of the hero's tunic you wear. You must use your courage to seek power, and find it you must. Only then will you become the hero for whom this world despairs. The Hero's Shade can be encountered multiple times throughout Twilight Princess, each time teaching Link a hidden skill, improving the nascent hero's ability with the blade. His identity is never explicitly stated in the game, but it is in Hyrule Historia, which claims that the spirit of Link's ancestor, the Hero of Time, teaches him his secrets. Ever since returning to the Child Era, the swordsman has lamented the fact that he was not remembered as a hero. This quote affirmed the already commonly accepted belief surrounding the Hero's Shade, but it claims three things. First, that the Hero's Shade is the spirit of the Hero of Time. Second, that the Hero of Twilight is directly descended from the Hero of Time. And third, that the reason the Hero of Time's spirit lingers on is because he regrets his legacy. But just how much does the game itself support these claims? What evidence is there for the Hero's Shade's identity and motivations? There are numerous obvious parallels between Link and the Hero's Shade. Both are skilled, left-handed swordsmen, and both also take on the form of a wolf. Notably, Link's wolf form is the result of his possession of the Triforce of Courage. The artifact is able to shield him from the effects of the Twilight and allow him to take on a bestial form rather than be reduced to a spirit. Midna claims that her people, the Twilight, long knew that a hero would appear in the form of a divine beast. The Hero's Shade's wolf form is different, however. His wolf is gold, and doesn't seem to be a response to the effects of Twilight like Link's, instead something like a reflection of his true spirit. As another incarnation of the hero, he too can take on the form of a divine beast. This is supported by his dialogue too, where he refers to his techniques as only for the one who carries the blood of the hero, the one whose spirit is that of the sublime beast. With Link in mind, certain elements of his armour do stand out. The red pattern on his loincloth is vaguely reminiscent of the red Loftwing design on the Hylian shield, and the face on the Shade's chestplate could further echo this, especially with what appears to be a beak. However, the chestplate also seems to feature ears, so perhaps this, coupled with the golden colour of his armour, calls back to his alternate form as the Golden Wolf. Hyrule Encyclopedia lists the Hero's Shade as a Stalfos, one of a class of undead warriors, often appearing as enemies in Zelda games. According to Fado, a Kokiri, anyone who enters Hyrule's forest becomes lost, and everyone who is lost becomes a Stalfos. However, except for a passing similarity between the hero's shade and Astalphos, there isn't a whole lot to this theory. For one, the shade, while appearing skeletal, isn't actually a skeleton. While we can see his skull, he does appear to have ghostly flesh, unlike any Stalfos. Additionally, Stalfos, while undead, are physical beings. They exist in the mortal world, the same plane of reality as Hylians and Zora and Gorons do. But the hero's shade only appears in this form in this spiritual plane. In the real world, he exclusively takes the form of a golden wolf, leading me to believe that the hero's shade is, well, a shade, a phantom, not a Stalfos. This spiritual plane is interesting in itself. Surrounding the area where these two heroes train are landmarks from around Hyrule, like the Arbiter's Grounds, Death Mountain, and Hyrule Castle itself. The fact that the Golden Wolf leaps at Link's head could imply that this training takes place within Link's mind, not unlike the Silent Realm trials from Skyward Sword, which also took place within ghostly echoes of the real world. But for all the mystery surrounding the hero's shade, one small detail does provide irrefutable evidence for his true identity, seen while he teaches Link the Mortal Draw skill, when he wears his sword on his hip. While the blade itself isn't anything special, the scabbard is. It's identical to the Master Sword's scabbard, only worn and decayed like the rest of his armor. The Master Sword's scabbard is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek Zelda mystery, resulting from a quirk of game design. Whenever Link pulls the Master Sword, he just seems to magically gain the scabbard too. Obviously, we're just not meant to think about this, like how the Hero of Time suddenly gains leggings and earrings after aging 7 years. But the fact that the hero's shade is still in possession of a broken, ancient version of the scabbard suggests that he wielded the Master Sword at some point in time, confirming the theory that this is the spirit of a previous incarnation of Link. But how do we know that this swordsman who wields the Master Sword's scabbard is the Hero of Time specifically? Notably, the words Hero of Time are never mentioned in Twilight Princess. However, a previous incarnation of Link is repeatedly referenced, either as the Ancient Hero, the Legendary Hero, or the Hero of Legend. Throughout the game, Link obtains various equipment once owned by this mythical hero. First, his tunic, which is given to him by the light spirit Farron after Link clears the Twilight from the area. Farron claims that the tunic was worn by an ancient hero chosen by the gods, and that his power slept within Link. And in the Goron mines, Link finds the hero's bow, said to be a treasure that once belonged to the legendary hero, which the Gorons have guarded for generations. Multiple other characters reference this hero too. It seems reasonable to believe that this ancient hero is the very same as the hero's shade. Otherwise, we're dealing with two separate legendary heroes from long ago, and the hero of Twilight is following in both of their footsteps. So, can we identify this ancient hero? Twilight Princess is set hundreds of years after Ocarina of Time's Child timeline ending, the alternate branch of history created when the Hero of Time returned to the past and warned Zelda of Ganondorf's betrayal, preventing his 7-year rule over the Kingdom of Hyrule. There are 4 playable Links that predate the Hero of Twilight. Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Link from Four Swords, Link from the Minish Cap, and Link from Skyward Sword. There is, of course, the Hero of Men mentioned in the Minish Cap's intro, and another unseen Link mentioned in the backstory of Four Swords, bringing our total to 6 possible candidates that we know of for the identity of the ancient hero mentioned in Twilight Princess. And there's always the possibility that the hero's shade is another Link entirely, one never seen nor mentioned in any game prior to Twilight Princess. More than any other Link, the green tunic and hero's bow said to belong to this ancient hero closely resemble those used by Skyward Sword Link. And by this time, the hero of the skies would truly be an ancient hero, one whose deeds would be carved into legend, a hero who saved the Kingdom of Hyrule before it even had a name. However, this is ignoring a crucial detail I've already mentioned. The hero's shade is left-handed, like the hero of Twilight and the hero of Time, and unlike the hero of the skies, who wields his sword in his right hand. This invalidates the idea that the shade is the Link from Skyward Sword entirely. The answer to the hero's shade's identity might not come from the shade himself, but his golden wolf form. Whenever Link encounters a Howling Stone, he howls songs together with this spectral wolf, and most, albeit not all of these, are songs connected to the Hero of Time's quests, such as the Prelude of Light, and the Requiem of Spirit, from Ocarina of Time, and the Song of Healing from Majora's Mask. In particular, this final song is a secret melody taught to the Hero of Time by the happy mask salesman in Termina. It's incredibly personal to Link's journey in Majora's Mask. If the Golden Wolf is howling songs that reflect his own life as a hero, then it seems more likely that he is, indeed, the Hero of Time. From a narrative standpoint, this makes the most sense. Twilight Princess acts as a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Together with the Wind Waker, Twilight Princess shows one of two different futures for the Kingdom of Hyrule following the Hero of Time's adventure. It makes the most sense for this hero to be the one referenced here, but the game never makes this explicit, and this claim could be argued against. But regardless, that's the first claim made by Hyrule Historia covered, and I'd argue that the lorebook is mostly accurate here. The hero's shade is definitely the spirit of a previous Link, and while it isn't certain, it seems probable that this Link was the Hero of Time. As for the second claim made by Hyrule Historia, that the hero's shade is Twilight Princess's Link's ancestor, that's an easy one to prove. The two are explicitly stated to share a bloodline. Not only does the shade refer to him as my child, he claims that the skills I have to teach you entered the realm of true secrecy. They are forgotten ways that do not leave our bloodline. This puts the Hero of Twilight in a somewhat unique position as the only Link canonically descended from another, and could further explain why Faron refers to the ancient hero's power as sleeping within Link, as well as why he is seemingly born in possession of the Triforce of Courage, rather than needing to earn it. And finally, the third claim, that ever since returning to the Child Era, the swordsman has lamented the fact that he was not remembered as a hero. This is a fascinating idea, and a tragic end to the life of one of the greatest heroes in Hyrule's history, but there's nothing to back this up in the game itself. Once Link has learned every hidden skill from the Shade, the Undead Knight claims that, although he accepted life as the hero, he could not convey the lessons of that life to those who came after. At last, he has eased those regrets. While similar, this seems to suggest an entirely different motivation to the one outlined in Hyrule Historia. Instead of regretting that he was not remembered as a hero, he instead regrets that he had not been able to pass on his knowledge. Because it does seem that the Hero of Time was remembered as a hero, even in the Child Timeline branch. Though returning to the past erased the memory of the heroic acts of adult Link in this timeline, the Hero of Time was still etched into legend. Majora's Mask's intro sequence describes his legend as one held dearly by the royal family, one of a boy who, after battling evil and saving Hyrule, crept away from the land that had made him a legend. And centuries later, he is revered as the legendary hero chosen by the gods, and items he used have become sacred relics. So not only does it seem out of character for an incarnation of Link, the eternally selfless, stereotypical hero, to regret that others do not remember him as a hero, it just doesn't seem like that is the case for the Hero of Time. He was remembered, yet still remains to teach his descendant. This leaves us with a considerable gap in the Hero of Time's story. The Hero of Time left Hyrule in search of Navi, his companion, who mysteriously vanished once Link returned to the past. He travels through the Lost Woods, where he falls into Termina, a strange, almost dreamlike world doomed by the evil magic of Majora. The story of the Hero of Time following Majora's Mask is unknown. We know that he leaves Termina and returns to the Lost Woods on Epona, but nothing is known about his life after this. However, we can infer some small details about his life based on what we know for certain. For one, the Hero of Time must have grown up. For the Hero of Twilight to be his direct descendant, this Link must have reached adulthood and fathered children. With whom is, of course, unknown. Some people choose to believe that he returned to Hyrule to marry Malon, like Talon promised, but let's be real, the Hero of Time has no shortage of options. It also seems likely that the Hero of Time wielded the Master Sword once again. In the child timeline, the Hero of Time never used this blade, as his time as an adult was erased. So for a future version of the child Hero of Time to possess the sword's scabbard, it's not a stretch to assume that, at some point, he took up the sword that seals the darkness once again. If this is true, and the Hero of Time embarked on another, unseen adventure, this could have been where he achieved wider renown, performing feats of courage and heroism that were remembered by even the common folk, not just the royal family and his Goron brothers. Despite how much is unknown, the Hero's Shade's story remains a tragic one. Even after losing his childhood in order to save Hyrule and Termina, the Hero of Time's sacrifice wasn't done. He was among the most legendary, accomplished heroes in Hyrule's history, but he had more to give. He had to share the wisdom and techniques he had learned from his difficult life with the hero that would succeed him. Until this was done, the Hero of Time was unable to let go, a broken spirit clinging to life in order to serve his kingdom one final time. In doing so, he became a hero who had not only conquered time, but death itself. The first time Link meets the Golden Wolf, it is without having visited a Howling Stone. Every subsequent time, the spirits must be summoned to the overworld by singing at one of these sites. And the first song Link and the Hero's Shade howl together is the Song of Healing, a melody that heals evil magic and troubled spirits, learned by the Hero of Time during his adventure in Termina. Perhaps the Hero's Shade howls this to soothe his own troubles, the regrets and sorrow of a weary adventurer. In Hyrule Castle, Link is able to access a hidden graveyard by burrowing under a wall as Wolf Link. This entire area is completely optional, used only to gain an extra small key to unlock a storeroom near the boss chamber, but it presents an interesting mystery. Here, Link can find two large gravestones with readable text, the first saying, "In the land where the rain stops, the statue of time moves," which is a hint on how to solve part of the area's puzzle by moving owl statues. But the other gravestone reads, "The cursed swordsman sleeps before the sacred tree." Now, this could be another hint for this area. Nearby, Link can find a tree surrounded by spirits of Hylian soldiers, all pointing to the ground. By bombing this spot, Link can find a switch, allowing him to proceed with the puzzle. But still, this doesn't fit particularly well, leaving this gravestone as something of a mystery. Who is the cursed swordsman, and what is the sacred tree he sleeps before? It's possible that the cursed swordsman referenced here is the Hero's Shade. We know that the Hero of Time was honoured by the royal family, so him having a gravestone in Hyrule Castle would make sense. But what about the sacred tree? Every time Link meets the Golden Wolf, it's after he's been summoned at a Howling Stone. Every time except the first, that is. The Hero's Shade first appears to Link without being called in Faron Woods, just outside of the Forest Temple, a sacred tree. Could this be what the gravestone is referring to? The Hero's Shade, a cursed swordsman, sleeps before the Forest Temple, a sacred tree. It's entirely possible, and if so, it adds a new level of depth to the Hero's Shade. It's left ambiguous what the Forest Temple actually is, but there are hints. The Kokiri crest can be seen, the symbol of the Children of the Forest. The Hero of Time's journey of course began in Kokiri Forest, guided by the Great Deku Tree. And here, centuries later, we find his spirit, waiting outside of the husk of a great tree deep in the heart of the Faron Woods. It's very possible that, in the end, the boy from the forest returned home. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.